Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Daniel Cross, and today I want to talk to you guys about Valkyrie. This was a game that I was fortunate enough to sit down and play prior to Gamescom. They asked me to come out a little bit early before the Invitational and sit down and talk to some of their developers and their social media guys, as well as the map designers and game designers, and get a face-on-face and get some game time in with this game. So if you guys are unfamiliar with EVE, EVE Online is this massive online game revolving around space, ships, battles, all sorts of stuff. And this is in the same universe, but it's a little bit different. You are piloting ships, and you are more of a pilot. You get to attack things, you get to have fights, you can play different game modes like team deathmatch, control, extraction, basically like domination, capture the flag, and other stuff is what you would more so recognize the names from. But I was able to go out to Germany, sit down and play this a little bit early, and when they approached me about it, they explained that it was VR, and I haven't played a lot of VR games yet, and this will be on PlayStation VR if you guys are curious. It was really unique because for me, most VR games I feel are kind of wonky. They don't really feel really well, and they don't fit really well. This one's pretty cool because it's a different perspective. You are that pilot, so when you're sitting in your ship, you're flying around, and you can look left, you can look right, and the movement tracks what you're looking at. So if you have a fighter in front of you, like flying toward you, and it goes over you, you look up behind you, you can see where it is while you steer your ship that way. And it's definitely a weird feeling and a weird perspective to have. Because it's not something that I can really explain. You kind of have to experience it if you're new to VR, like I was. It was definitely really cool. But outside of that, you can play it on PC. You can play it on console. You don't actually have to use the headset if you don't want to. It's just kind of an extension. But it was really cool to have. And let's actually talk a little bit about the gameplay that you'll see. You'll probably see some highlights of mine, because my highlights might be limited. It took me a little while to get used to what I was doing. I was a little out of my element controlling a ship, but it didn't take too long to pick up. And the dogfighting in this game is something that I think you guys will find interesting, is fighting other pilots. You're chasing each other around on the maps or the objectives, whichever you're playing, and it's definitely crazy when you start getting in fights with like one or two people. You're trying to dodge missiles, you're trying to dodge lasers, machine guns, whichever. It gets pretty heated. So a lot of the gameplay you'll see from me is me using the Wraith, which is more of an assault class. It's a kind of smaller ship. It varies, it's got some speed to it, some mobility, but essentially the way that developers kind of mention it to me is like, if you play FPS games, this is basically like an M4 or an assault rifle with a red dot sight on it. You have these two big machine guns, and you get to like fly right behind players, kind of lock onto them a bit, and then just spray them down. This took me a little while to get used to, because I kept just going into fights and like attacking players head on, and it didn't really work out very well. And then I was like, what am I doing? This is not the same. So you actually have to like think ahead, get behind people, flank people, and just laser them down as much as you can, or machine gun them down. You have some other abilities too, and some other weapons. You have lock-on missiles that you'll see spiral when you lock on, and then they launch out there all at once, and they just track that guy down. And if you get close enough, you can lock on all at once, fire these things out, and start spraying it with the machine gun at the same time, pretty much eliminating that target rather quickly. It's pretty cool. The other ability you have is like an ultimate ability, and this one's pretty massive. It's this huge rocket, this huge missile that you can lock on and fire it. When I first tried it, I was asking a developer, I was like, hey, how do I use this ultimate ability? I have it charged up here. It's this big purple missile icon. You can't miss it on the screen. And he's like, oh yeah, just press Q, and press Q, and all of a sudden you see this little triangle lock on, and the missile just launches out there. And I was like, wait, is that gonna get him? And he just looked at me and like shook his head. He's like, oh yeah. And then a second later, you saw like 2 or 3 kills pop up on the screen, because it was such a big explosion. It was pretty cool. So during the event, that was probably a pretty cool highlight for me. And I enjoyed playing it a lot. I used to play like Ace Combat and other fighter jet games, and it reminded me and brought me back to that kind of experience. But the VR aspect to this is completely different, and it's something that I kind of like, because with gaming, I've always been on the fence about VR. It was something that I was like, I don't know. But in this perspective, I definitely think it's something that works really well. It causes a whole nother level of immersion that you're probably not used to playing on a flat screen. And just being able to see your character like in person or in that space is a little bit different. Flying around space as well, playing these other game modes that they have. So we had Team Deathmatch. Everyone knows what Team Deathmatch is. You get to attack and kill each other. Just a whole mess, just kind of a shit show. And then you have Control, which you gain points by capturing these certain areas like A, B, and C. And what you need to do, though, is your ship flies around, so you can't just sit still and cap a flag like you do in other games. So what you'll do is you'll drop a drone off on A, and you fly around and you protect it while it captures, and you shoot other players while they come in and they try to defend it, or they try to counter cap. So you're not like held down. You're actually constantly moving, you're constantly fighting, and that adds a whole nother aspect to that as well. After a certain point of time, you'll drain their amount of like tickets, I guess I should say, or resources, so they can't spawn in more players, and then you eventually win over time. Kills count, so you get the more kills you get, the better. But if you control the points, it's going to help you a lot more than just getting a couple kills. The other game mode that we played was Extraction, which is basically capture the flag. So you fly around and these relics pop up. They're these big green things. You can't miss them. And you just get onto them and you grab them and you just move them back to another point. You have to deliver them to a quartermaster. And why this happens, you get chased. Like, everyone knows where you are. Everyone's like trying to get you and trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. So it causes some really cool dogfighting. And dogfighting, honestly, for me, was something I didn't expect. When I first started, I got demolished, and then by the end of this capture session, I started getting a little bit better at it and getting to the point where I could control my ship comfortably and fight and like get in and out of these engagements when I wanted to and just kind of move around. But for me, I really just liked killing people. I didn't really care about the objectives. I know that's terrible to say, but I really liked being engaged and fighting these other players. But hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the gameplay you'll see. I might let it play for a little bit while longer. But if you guys do, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Valkyrie. I might do some streams on it potentially in the future or something similar if I have some time. But I'd love to hear your opinions. I just wanted to say thank you guys again to the team to have me come out and get this hands-on experience with this game and take a look at what you guys have been working on. I like it so far, and it's definitely something that's interesting. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon in another video. As always, take care.